A. Smith Show starts right now.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, ESPN News, 250 plus markets across the United States of America. Check your AM, FM listing nearest you, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM, Channel 80, plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, making it easy to bundle your home and your car insurance. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Let me start off the show by saying this. Cam Newton is not finished. Let me say it again. Cam Newton is not finished. But damn, does it look that way? Looks like he's inching close to that. Carolina Panthers lost another game last night. Cam Newton, 24 of 50, 324 yards. That's a less than 50% completion percentage. Finished with a quarterback rating of 69 for the evening. He was not that impressive at all. Matter of fact, he got outplayed by Jameis Winston, who completed 16 to 25 passes for just 208 yards. The fact of the matter is that we can sit up here and we can point to the last play with a little over a minute left on a 4th and 1 spot. And instead of giving the ball to Cam Newton to run the football or trying to run some kind of quarterback sneak or something along those lines, instead what we witnessed was Ron Rivera and Norv Turner basically call some kind of ghost sweep for Christian McCaffrey. Didn't work out. He gets stopped. Tampa survives. They beat the Carolina Panthers last night 20-14 at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina. Tampa Bay's 1-1 on the season. Carolina's 0-2 on the season. Most teams who start off 0-2 don't make the playoffs. And obviously, Ron Rivera and the Carolina Panthers are in a world of trouble. Cam Newton spoke after the game, and John, we have that sound from Cam Newton, right? Cam Newton speaking after the game, talking about himself, talking about the loss, talking about his level of culpability, etc. Here is what Cam Newton had to say.
You're not going to hear no type of reasons why tonight didn't go as planned. I have to be better. No matter what physical condition I'm in, no matter what foot, shoulder, I ain't get the job done tonight, man, and it's frustrating. I wish I could say something other than that, but you know that's the facts. And you know I'm an extremely brutally honest person, you know, with people, and I'm extremely brutally honest with myself. And it's time for me to look myself in the mirror and, you know, do some real soul searching because I had opportunities tonight and I didn't get it done.
I respect the hell out of Cam Newton for voicing his sentiments about himself the way that he did. That's a man there. That's a young man there. But let me be very clear. Everybody's alarmed by what they're seeing from Cam, and they're talking about he must be injured, must be a foot, but I don't want to hear all of that. And I'm going to tell you why I don't want to hear all of that. Cam Newton when healthy, is a superstar athlete. Cam Newton, when healthy, is a superstar NFL player. He has never been a superstar quarterback. Never. Now, I'm going to say this because I want everybody to understand where I'm coming from. Accuracy, throwing the football, is the number one quality I am looking for from a quarterback. You got people that's going to sit up there and say, it's about moving the chains, Stephen A. It don't matter how you do it. Damn it, Stephen A. It's about scoring. It's about putting points up on the board. It don't matter how you do it. Well, guess what? Then why ain't Tim Tebow still a quarterback in the National Football League? Why is it that when Lamar Jackson lost to the Los Angeles Chargers in the divisional playoff game last year, we all had a conniption when he only completed three passes for 25 yards through the first 3 quarters and 2 minutes of a playoff game? Ladies and gentlemen, throwing the football is the number one requirement of a damn quarterback. I'm sick and tired of people acting like they don't know that. I don't care. Listen, I understand if you can run the football, that makes you a dual threat. Michael Vick was special. Lamar Jackson is special. I got that. I got it. I understand there are other components to the quarterback position. Your intellect, your football IQ, your ability to read defenses, to anticipate, to see what's coming. I always am popular for pointing out how my man, Hugh Douglas, who used to play for the Philadelphia Eagles, who used to work here at ESPN, now doing a great job in Atlanta on radio last time I checked, that Hugh Douglas once told me a story about how disheartened he was because he was going up against the Miami Dolphins and they went up to the line of scrimmage and Dan Marino looked over the line of scrimmage and literally before he called the play, told his team every single thing everybody was trying to do before he called the snap. He knew everything. He talked about the brilliance of Dan Marino. And they were like how demoralizing it was because you're trying to engage in trickery. And you're trying to outsmart people, not just outmuscle them, not just outskill them, but outsmart them. And nobody was outsmarting Dan Marino. We raved and raved and raved about the quick release and the strong arm and the ability to make throws from anywhere. And how he couldn't run faster than a snail, for crying out loud. He was clearly a pocket passer. So what made him so great? His ability to to throw the football, and his ability to read defenses while doing so. Ladies and gentlemen, throwing the damn football matters at the quarterback spot. You can go to George Blanket, you can go to Johnny Unitas. You could go to Roger Staubach and Terry Bradshaw. You could go to Joe Montana and Steve Young. Or Troy Aikman. You could go to Peyton Manning, you could Tom Brady. You could go back to Warren Moon. I don't give a damn who it is. If you're playing the quarterback position, you gotta be able to throw the football. There's a reason Randall Cunningham ain't in the Hall of Fame. And I'm not saying he couldn't throw, but not like those guys. He was no John Elway. He was no Brett Favre. All of these quarterbacks that I'm mentioning, you got to be able to throw the football. And when have we ever said Cam Newton is an exceptional thrower of the football? I mean no disrespect. I'm fond of Cam. As a person as well as a player. I don't like that damn outfit he had on, and I certainly don't like that ridiculous hairdo. Hell no. But I respect the hell out of him. And I root for him all the time. You can't be a brother and don't root for Cam Newton. That's just impossible to me. But we got to call it like we see it. He has never, ever been accused of being an elite thrower of the football. The time has come for us to call it like it is. Heisman Trophy winner, national champion, came into the league, first year in the league, threw for over 4,000 yards. Ladies and gentlemen, he completed 60% of his passes. He spent the next 7 years pretty much not touching that stat. The next 7 years. This Cam Newton we talking about here. If we're going to be real, let's be real about it. It's got to stop. This love affair with people where we just going to ignore facts, pimp slapping us in the face. Cam Newton, as a player, his first 7 years in the league, 60, 57.7, 61.7, 58.5, 59.8, 52.9, 59.9. Those were his completion percentages throughout his years as a National Football League quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. Now, granted, Kelvin Benjamin, Funches, and others, he ain't exactly have the most elite dudes to throw the football to. Fair enough. Fair enough. But I'm saying exercise the eye test. We know throwers when we see him. He's never been one of them. Last year, 67.9%, best year ever completing the football in the 14 games that he played, even though he was never the same after getting hurt by Pittsburgh and T.J. Watt. When they got blown out 52 to like 21 or something in November. Bottom line is, no matter which way you slice it, when you look at Cam Newton, the reality is inescapable. He's not a great thrower. And now that his health has been compromised to the point where he can't run with the football with the degree of regularity that he once did, the reality is that he's no longer the same. Ladies and gentlemen, we used to talk about Cam Newton as the former league MVP in 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, he's not even a top quarterback in his own division. That would be Drew Brees and Matt Ryan. Last night, Jameis Winston, loser of 12 consecutive road games. That Jameis Winston, a turnover waiting to happen. That Jameis Winston, who nobody believes is going to be the starting quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers come next season. That Jameis Winston outplayed Cam Newton. Are we going to act like we don't know? We're going to act like we don't know. Cam Newton connected on a 44-yard pass play to one of his receivers last night. I got news for you. That ball was underthrown. I believe it was to Samuels. That ball was underthrown. I'm here to tell you something right now. Should have been a touchdown. He had the receiver beat. He had the cornerback beat. Chris Samuels had him beat. What happened? Cam Newton underthrew it. Overthrew Olsen, overthrew McCaffrey, overthrew Moore. Look, I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. Got to show and prove, man. Cam Newton is not what he used to be. And even with what he used to be, he was never an elite thrower, an elite athlete, an elite talent, an elite player, but not an elite thrower. And in today's NFL, when you play in that quarterback position, you better know how to run like hell if you ain't an elite thrower. You got cats that are going to test him because they don't believe. They believe either his health is questionable where he won't be able to get the throws to you, or even if it was, they challenge his accuracy. They just do. Talk about Carolina and their future prospects. First of all, we all know Tampa ain't going to the playoffs. But let's look at Carolina for a second. You think they're going to be better than New Orleans? Hell no. You think they're going to be better than Atlanta? We'll see. I don't know what the hell happened to Atlanta last week. You got Matt Ryan. You got Devontae Freeman back. You got Sanu and Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley as your wideouts. What the hell is wrong with their offense scoring only 12 points against Minnesota? Beats me. But do I expect that to continue? No, I do not. So you got Atlanta in your own division with New Orleans. Let's go to the NFC. They better than Seattle? They better than the LA Rams? How about Minnesota, Chicago, or Green Bay? How about Dallas or Philadelphia? Carolina ain't going no damn playoffs. And I feel bad for them. Kuechly, monster game, 17 tackles last night, including that safety. I got it. Their defense, led by Ron Rivera, they always have a respectable defense. But when you look at Carolina right now, don't expect much from them. I'm telling you that right now. You're wasting your time. Because their offensive personnel ain't good enough, and Cam Newton ain't either. Boy, I hope I'm wrong, but I know what I'm seeing. And it's not that impressive. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Somebody else making news is a former New York Giant who now plays for the Cleveland Browns. And his name is Odell Beckham Jr. Going into their Monday night football game against the New York Jets, Odell Beckham Jr. has concerns. Is it about Baker Mayfield? No. Is it about how putrid their offense looked, particularly in the fourth quarter against the Tennessee Titans last week? No. Is it about the fact that he may not have gotten enough reps with Baker Mayfield, that's something that he needs to be developing, that Baker Mayfield should be the one he's catching footballs from as opposed to Colin Kaepernick? Yes. Could be. But that's not what Odell Beckham Jr. is complaining about. He's complaining about Gregg Williams, former defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns, an interim head coach who's now the defensive coordinator for the New York Jets, who was the defensive coordinator in New Orleans years ago when he got in trouble for Bountygate and got suspended for an entire year from the National Football League because of the Bountygate that they exercised against the likes of Brett Favre. Well, that's who Odell Beckham Jr. is concerned about. And he spoke on this. John, we've got that sound? Because he spoke about this. And here's what Odell Beckham Jr. had to say about New York Jets defensive coordinator Gregg Williams teaching cheap shots and dirty hits when it comes to going against them. Listen up.
The only thing I'm buying is, probably just got to watch out for the cheap shots and the dirty hits and all the things that he likes to teach. That's pretty much all we got to watch out for. Other than that, I expect the same. Too high safety. I don't expect much man-to-man. I don't expect none of that. I had people who were here when he was here telling us, if you get a chance, take a shot at him. If you can, hurt him. I guarantee he's going to leave the game hurt and stuff like that. And it's fine. It's football in a sense, but, we're all men out there, so there's no need for doing any of that kind of stuff.
Let me tell you what I've heard about Gregg Williams. Technically speaking, he's guilty, but not really. Gregg Williams is popular for telling his players he wants someone hurt. Hurt folks. Go ahead and do it. He encourages them. Put a hat on them. He never talked money in the eyes of a lot of people and stuff like that. But he most certainly have told players to harm and potentially injure an opposing player. Here's my problem. In the sport of football, I don't know too many people that go out there on the defensive side of the ball without the intent to actually harm. They don't want to hit you and they don't want you to feel it. Oh, they want to pulverize you. And to me, as long as it doesn't involve a legal hit and an illegal hit, the fact that a defensive coordinator wants you to cave somebody's chest in or hit them legally and knock them unconscious or something, I really don't have a problem with it. I know that sounds crazy, but I don't have a problem with it. Now, I will say this. If you're encouraging guys to be hit low, where limbs are separated from its appropriate places and stuff like that, yeah, that's problematic. I'll give Odell Beckham Jr. that. And I've been told that Gregg Williams will say something like that. That's not good. But here's my whole deal. Gregg Williams, according to Jonathan Vilma, who was on First Take with me in this morning, my show on ESPN every weekday morning from 10 a.m. to noon with Max Kellerman and Molly Karam, according to Jonathan Vilma, who played for Gregg Williams for 3 years in New Orleans, he said, Gregg Williams has a degree in psychology. He's a master at messing with the mind. And if you're Odell Beckham Jr. and you go out publicly and you declare what you are worried about, that's not good for you. Because now Gregg Williams knows, I got you. You ain't trying to run across the middle. You ain't trying to run some of these routes. I'm inside your head. You're a bit worried about me. That's exactly how I want you. And it's true. So I just don't know how wise it was for for Odell Beckham Jr. to say what he said. What about y'all? 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. On a separate note, I wanted to get into a personal matter real quickly involving Colin Kaepernick. I wanted to inform my audience of something that happened yesterday. So a week from today, First Take will be live from Delaware State University, 76ers Fieldhouse to be exact, because I am the ambassador for HBCU Week. It was something that was started at Delaware State about 3 years ago. Co-founders Earl Cooper and Ashley Christopher, they both work for the mayor's office, Mayor Persecki there in Wilmington, Delaware. Wonderful man, by the way. Governor John Carney showed up a few months ago to recognize the importance of the event. Congressional figures, both U.S. senators showed up in attendance from Delaware as well. This is a big, big deal, and they've asked me to be the ambassador, which I'm honored to be. I'm the ambassador for HBCU Week, and it's an effort being put forth by myself and my team, myself, Rashawn McDonald, my business manager, and others. We want to be a part of this. We're honored to be a part of it. Nevertheless, HBCU Week culminates next Friday and Saturday, Battle of the Bands, HBCU bands next Saturday as well. But we'll be there. First Take will be there next Friday. And because we'll be there next Friday and I'm the ambassador for the event, First Take is having our show there. And as a result, I've been around doing interviews, Breakfast Club, and various other shows promoting my participation with that event next week. And while I was at WBLS in New York City doing an interview, thereafter, a gentleman was waiting for me, and apparently he's friends and a colleague of Nessa Diab. I hope I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. She is the girlfriend of Colin Kaepernick. And he took and expressed his frustration and dismay over things they felt I have said about Colin Kaepernick. And she wanted to talk to me as well. First things first, I cannot express how classy all of them were. There was no disrespect whatsoever. They took offense to some things they felt I felt and things that I have said, and they wanted to address me about it. I have no issues with it. When you sit in this chair, can't be chirping and talking, and then people want to talk to you and you run. I don't do that. Especially she has every right to, because she's one of the people that have tweeted a few things in support of her man on several occasions. And obviously because of that, she's personally made news, which means people like myself and others have talked about her. So she has every right to approach me and express her feelings, which she did. And challenged me on a couple of things that she thought I was inaccurate about. Fair enough. Once again, nothing but extreme class and professionalism on her part and the part of her team. Can't thank them enough. They did nothing wrong. Upon having this conversation, she wanted two things to get out because it's important to her that the truth is out there. Things that I said in terms of him having a job offer from Miami, Baltimore, Seattle, and Denver, she says was completely inaccurate. They never offered Colin Kaepernick a job. In her opinion, they never were going to offer him a job. She wanted that put out there. I let her know. I didn't say that. I said the NFL and the NFL Players Association told me those things. Wasn't me saying it. It was information that both entities disseminated to an abundance of us in the media, including myself. Neither here nor there. The other point she wanted to get out was that Colin Kaepernick and his settlement does not prohibit him from being back in the NFL. And don't think for one second that he still doesn't want to be in the NFL. He's working hard every day, trying to make it happen. He wants a job. He's ready to play if somebody picks up the phone and calls him. Period. She wanted to make sure that was stated. I'm doing that right now. Colin Kaepernick, settlement with the National Football League, remember the grievance he filed? He did not capitulate that he doesn't want to be in the NFL anymore. He's not going to try to be in the NFL anymore. He wants to be in the NFL. He's still working out every day. He's in tip-top shape. He's ready to go if you gave him the call right now. She wanted to make that very clear. So now that that information is out there, I just wanted everybody to know. I also wanted everybody to know that I extended an invitation to her, to Colin Kaepernick, and Eric Reed. If they want to together, I'll give them the entire 2 hours on First Take. Name the day and time. Name the day, and it's yours. You can have it. Other than next Friday when I got to do HBCU week at Delaware State, of course. I let them know that. So if they want to make the case that misinformation and things of that nature are being disseminated, they can squash it all. They have an open invitation to come on First Take with yours truly, live for the entire 2 hours. I'll give it to them. Got the okay from the bosses. What they do with that invitation is their business. But I want to say thank you to Miss Nessa Diab for expressing herself to me, for reaching out to me the way that she did, and for her and her entire team showing nothing but class, because a lot of times when she has said things, people have challenged how she's elected to express herself and things of that nature. That was the first time I ever met her. I can only tell you my personal experience with her is that she was class all the way, and so was her entire team. And I appreciate her taking the time to let me know where she stood and how she felt, and I thank her for it. And I hope her and Colin Kaepernick Any of my opening segment, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith podcast, brought to you by the Capital One Quicksilver Card, earning unlimited 1.5% cash back on every purchase everywhere. Hey, what's in your wallet? Also, tune in this Sunday for a football doubleheader as the Packers host the Vikings and the Rams host the New Orleans Saints. Presented by Vivid Seats and Exxon and Mobil. Pre-game begins at noon Eastern on most ESPN radio stations. 888-SAY-ESPN is always the number to call up. This 888-729-3776. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Hey, John, I got a few people that want to call in. They're telling me the call-in number ain't working properly. I just want you to know that. We on it, bro. We on it. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. My boy Champ, is he on the line? Champ, you there?
I'm right
man,
here, bro.
You see how I look out for you, man. I'm sitting there getting on technicians for you, man. I mean, damn. If that ain't love, I don't know what is.
Those are my guys, even though they're Giant fans. It's okay.
All right.
But
what's up?
In all seriousness, with the NCAA, I mean, kudos to California for passing this law. I think the governor should sign the bill.
Hold on for a second. Hold that thought for a second. 39-0 in the part of the Senate. State Assembly, 73-0, voted in favor of pay for play. Basically, student athletes being able to make money marketing-wise off their name, et cetera, receive endorsement deals, those kind of things. Governor Gavin Newsom in California is expected to sign that into law. Tim Tebow came on First Take this morning very, very passionate against it. My man Champ obviously is passionate for it, but Champ, I needed to lay that out to my listeners. Go ahead, take the floor, bro.
Well, the whole thing about it is we have moved to a new age. Obviously, let's just go back 40 years ago, 1979. I think Judd Heathcote was making between $30,000 to $50,000 when he won the NCAA title with Magic Johnson. You didn't have Nike, Under Armour, Reebok, Adidas, and throwing millions of dollars to these coaches and universities. So what has happened is the game has evolved. It has turned into an amateur association, and the NCAA has to get with the program. If you can pay Jim Harbaugh $9 million, the university, and you telling the guys that go play for them they cannot make money off their likeness, or pay coaches like Coach K, I think probably Coach K make between $5 to $10 million a year at Duke, but all these top recruits only can come in and play for you and can't take advantage of what's going on. And a lot of parents out here don't even know what a letter of intent is. A national letter of intent is a one-year deal. When you sign your name up, you're signing your rights away. You're signing your likeness and everything. So here's my question. Tell me this. If you don't sign a national letter of intent and the university allows you to go to school and you sign up with a financial advisor to preferred walk-on, how is that illegal?
Yeah.
How is that illegal if a financial advisor, if someone wants to give, let's say, Zion Williamson, if I'm a financial advisor, I want to give Zion Williamson family $1 million for 1 year, and I pay for his tuition and everything paid for to go to Duke University. Tell me why that's not legal. That's what I want to know. And I think it's Bush League by all these college coaches if they don't want to come out and say, hey, we need to make some fundamental changes, because college football, if you notice, the NCAA, there's not a committee for a college football playoff. That's totally separate from the NCAA tournament. The college football has 11 people that make a decision who goes to the playoff, and they're giving out hundreds of millions of dollars every year to play in these bowl games. And these kids, but you want these kids to play an extra game and an extra bowl game, and as a fan, you get highly upset when they say, you know what, I don't want to play in the bowl game. What you say to that?
Well, listen, I think it's one of those situations where it's far simpler to me than all of that. I get the issue of fairness that you're alluding to. Coaches are getting paid. Administrative officials are getting paid. The NCAA certainly finds a way to fill its coffers. The list goes on and on. Everybody seems to be benefiting off the backs of collegiate athletes, but the collegiate athletes themselves. And I think that but see, here to me is where it's glaring. We try to act like they're all the same. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're playing football, volleyball, if you're playing wrestling, volleyball, or something like that, it's not the same as football and basketball in the collegiate sports world, particularly on the Division I level, because outside sources are pouring revenue into those sports. If they were pouring it into your sport, it would be different. It's amazing to me that everybody wants to talk about equality and making sure that the amateurism is upheld, when in fact, big business is associated with college football and college basketball. It's not associated big time with college lacrosse. It's not associated big time with college wrestling or college tennis or something like that. So in America, which prides itself on capitalism, we've got an election that's about to take place where people are mentioning everything from capitalism to socialism to fascism. We live in a capitalistic society. And if you know that you are that way and you accept it that way, then why prevent these kids from being capitalists when your country is founded on this principle? That, to me, champ, is what it comes down to.
I agree, and I want to throw this out here too.
Real quick, go ahead.
May disagree. A lot of people probably disagree with LeVar Ball. I think he's a tremendous father, and he understands what you're talking about. Melo Ball is the odds on favorites to be the number one player in the NBA draft next year. He has to travel all the way to Australia to play basketball, where they're paying him. Can you imagine if Melo Ball was at Duke or North Carolina or Kansas right now?
Listen.
Hold on, hear me out. I know what you're going to say about the decisions that LeVar made.
Yes.
But what I'm trying to, based on what's going on right now, but we're talking about, why do our players have to leave the United States of America to get funding before they go to the NBA with this rule and everything? I'm going to tell you something. One of these top-notch coaches need to step up to the plate and say, you know what, enough is enough. They know what they can do. They choose not to do it.
Yeah,
that's the issue.
Well, I agree with you that there are a few that can, but not all of them can do the same for the student athlete. And I think that's the issue that the NCAA and people who support them are leaning on. I'm not saying it's right, but that's clearly their argument. Champ, I got to run. Appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. We'll close out the show. We'll close out the hour, I apologize, with your calls before my man, Chris Canty, comes on the show. Former Super Bowl champion with the New York Giants. All things football. Exceptional football analyst. He'll be on with us at top of hour number 2, so don't touch that dial. Stick around. You're listening to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, go to the Home Depot to add personality and style to your room with a wide selection of on-trend tile all in one place. The Home Depot makes replacing your carpet easy with more styles and colors to choose from. And right now, free installation on any purchase of $400.
Any type of pertinent information as it relates to this case, then you can go about, if you want to go about putting Antonio Brown on the commissioner's exemptions list, by all means. But to do it right now, right out of the box, I think it sets a terrible precedent.
Do you have any issue at all if the National Football League decided to place Antonio Brown on the commissioner's exempt list in the immediate aftermath of talking with Brittany Taylor?
I don't have a problem with that because I think having an interview with Mrs. Taylor, I think a lot of it is fact finding and finding out if this is truly credible. Okay, and I think once you make that move, make the move to interview her, then I think for me, I wouldn't have a problem with it saying the league basically saying, you know what, we're going to put you over here. Let's continue to collect the evidence and talk to all parties involved, and then from there, then we'll get further along and decide which way we want to go as far as potential punishment or whatever the case may be. But I just feel like, Stephen A., if you go down the road of putting Antonio Brown on a commissioner's list right off the bat without talking to anyone, I just think that it's a real slippery slope.
I completely agree with you there. As much as I absolutely respect and adore Christine Brennan, I disagree with her with that as well. I believe that if you have to talk to somebody and gather evidence. You can't just put the guy on the commissioner's list because of an allegation. I know it's popular for a lot of people to pounce on him because of his idiocy and buffoonish behavior while he was an Oakland Raider, but that has absolutely positively nothing to do with this accusation of criminal behavior, because if he raped her, obviously that's a highly egregious crime, and his behind should be in jail. He shouldn't be paying some civil fine. He should be in jail if he raped her, okay? But if you're going to make the accusation, if that's all you have to do to get a guy off the football field, then obviously that is a slippery slope, and I don't blame you for feeling that way after all.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line.
This show is being brought to you live from above Pier 17, presented by Chase. Also, prep your engine for winter with Pennzoil Synthetic Motor Oil. The first motor oil made from natural gas, not crude oil. The proof is in the Pennzoil. 888-SAY-ESPN. That is the number to call right here with Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. By the way, thanks again to my boy Champ for calling in, talking about the NCAA and the state of California about to pass a bill, assuming Governor Gavin Newsom signs it into law. Basically, the collegiate athletes in the state of California will be allowed to benefit off their likeness, marketing deals, things of that nature. By the way, the NCAA is a nonprofit organization that regulates student athletes from 1,268 North American institutions and conferences, reading from Wikipedia, of course. It also organizes the athletic programs of many colleges and universities in the United States and Canada and helps more than 480,000 college student athletes who compete annually in college sports. In 2016-2017 fiscal year, the NCAA took in $1.06 billion in revenue, over 82% of which was generated by the Division I men's basketball tournament. Yeah, folks in wrestling and volleyball and all this stuff acting like folks got to be treated the same as college football and college basketball, where we know where the money is being generated from. It's ridiculous. Absolutely, positively ridiculous. Also, the NCAA, I think they're a 501c3 organization. Don't have to pay taxes, nonprofit, all of that stuff. Lots to get into. No doubt we will. Hour number 2 up next, my man Chris Canty, former NFL player, radio host. He'll be up with me next.
That's the first thing
The Stephen A. Smith Show starts right now.
Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Pick from a range of coverage options with the Name Your Price tool to find a price that works for you. Also, tune in for college football action tomorrow as Syracuse hosts Clemson. Presented by Goodyear. Coverage begins at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. By the way, have you ever had to miss a football game because you couldn't watch the game? That never has to happen again with TuneIn, your all-in-one audio app for live sports, news, music, and podcasts. With TuneIn Premium, you can listen to live and on-demand coverage of every single game of the National Football League season. It's always great to have my next guest on the line, doing an outstanding job on the NFL. By the way, you can listen to him every weekday morning, 10 a.m., 1 p.m., ESPN Radio, 98.7 FM in New York City. He also makes a lot of appearances on Fox with my brother from another mother, my man Chris Carter, Nick Wright and the crew. First things first, Fox Sports during the morning time as well. I'm talking about NFL analyst extraordinaire, one of the best in the business, y'all, rising star in this business as far as I'm concerned. Somebody I want to hear, you understand, on television for us. The one and only Chris Canty is on the line with us right now. What's going on, big time? How are you, man?
I'm doing good, Stephen A. Appreciate you having me on. I haven't spoken to you since you did the interview with Michael Kay on Center Stage.
Right.
And I just want to say thank you for the endorsement that you gave me. You continue to break down barriers for us in the industry. And what I love about you is you always make sure to reach back and help somebody else out. So I want to say thank you for everything that you've done for me and for my career thus far.
Well, I appreciate it, but it's well-deserved, my man. I think you're one of the best in the business, and I'm happy to have you right here, right now. Let's get right into it because we got a whole bunch of NFL topics to get into. The New England Patriots, we have learned, will have Antonio Brown eligible for week 2 of this NFL season against Miami this weekend because the NFL announced that, or at least Adam Schefter broke the news, that the commissioner's list will not have Antonio Brown on it at this particular moment in time. As we all know, he's been accused of rape by a woman by the name of Brittany Taylor, his former trainer. And the NFL is scheduled to meet with her and interview her next week. And it appears that at least until then, the NFL will not act against Antonio Brown. Your thought upon hearing that news and your thoughts overall about Antonio Brown finding himself in a myriad of situations, this one obviously far more serious than the others he found himself in while an Oakland Raider. Your thoughts about this whole ordeal?
Well, here's the thing I'll say, Stephen A. I mean, I haven't liked all the noise that's been around Antonio Brown throughout the offseason, but the allegations from Ms. Taylor, this is a different level. This is something of a different nature. And so, you know, appropriately, the NFL, the New England Patriots are taking these allegations seriously. And we have to let that process play out while the NFL does its investigation. But what I will say is this, in terms of Antonio Brown being available for the Patriots, I think that was the right move for the NFL to make because, again, we're talking about somebody being accused of something. I mean, Antonio Brown has not been charged with the crime. He has not been arrested. So, I think that it's important to understand that you're talking about a he said, she said situation. I don't think it's appropriate to take away somebody's opportunity to be on the job. I don't think it's appropriate to take away Antonio Brown's ability to play football when we're talking about something that has yet to be proved. Now, nonetheless, it's still disturbing to have something like this come out about a player. But since the NFL has not been able to speak to Ms. Taylor, I think they have an interview scheduled next week. I think the appropriate thing for the NFL to do was to allow Antonio Brown to play on Sunday down in Miami.
You know, it's interesting. I feel exactly the same way that you do. My other opinion about it, however, is that they shouldn't do a damn thing until they interview her. But if they interview her, I think one of a few things they have to take into consideration. How plausible is her story, how believable she is, and how far she's willing to take it. And the reason why I say that's very, very relevant from a business perspective, although it might turn people off, if you're the National Football League, you have to think about it from a business perspective in this regard. On one hand, you got to be prepared to deal with the Players Association, who's not going to be fighting on behalf of Antonio Brown. They're going to be fighting on behalf of a process because they don't want a precedent being set where he hasn't been charged, it's not a criminal offense, and you find yourself in a position to just exact a level of punishment against him that they would deem unfair considering the absence of a process. But then there's the other thing they have to consider is that if she is believable and they believe she's going to take this to the hilt, that this could possibly transform into a criminal case, then they have to consider the shield and the way the shield may be sullied with him being paraded all over the news, involved in such a circumstance. And under that sequence, I think it might be possible that they might put him on the commissioner's exempt list. Is that how you see this unfolding?
No, that's how I see it unfolding, and I think that the league office has to lean on NFL security to uncover the facts of all of these situations. Keep in mind, Antonio Brown does not deny having an intimate relationship with Brittany Taylor, but I think the disagreement comes with whether or not it's consensual. So I think that you have to interview Ms. Taylor. You have to see what she has to say, her account of the facts of the matter. But, in terms of the NFL's position, Roger Goodell is going to do what's best in terms of protecting the shield. And also keeping in mind, when the NFL investigated another high-profile case when it came to violence toward winning, that being Ezekiel Elliott a couple of years ago, and a situation that he had coming out of Ohio State, the investigator for the NFL interviewed the accuser and didn't find the accuser credible. That still didn't stop Roger Goodell from imposing discipline on Zeke. He still sat down for 6 games. So I think this is going to come down to the interview that takes place next week, and that'll determine whether or not Antonio Brown finds himself on the commissioner's exempt list.
Chris Canty right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's go to stuff, more innocuous things. Let's go to the world of football itself on the field. Minkah Fitzpatrick sought permission and captured it, seeking a trade from the Miami Dolphins. When you look at that situation and how it's unfolded in Miami, it seems pretty bizarre. They lose 59-10 to Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens last week. Lamar Jackson looking like the second coming of Joe Montana, fresh off a divisional playoff performance where he only completed 3 passes for 25 yards in the first 3 quarters in 2 minutes against the Chargers. Last time we saw him before last weekend. Yet he looks like the second coming of Joe Montana. They obliterate the Miami Dolphins. And you got guys on the Dolphins talking about the staff was basically trying to stink on purpose, meaning the coaches weren't game planning appropriately. What did you make of all of that?
Well, here's the thing. I don't think the Miami Dolphins players are in any position to make an argument about what the organization is trying to do. And the fact of the matter is, if the guys on that team would have played better, their head coach, Adam Gase, would not have been fired at the end of 2018. That being said, I do think it has to be frustrating in that locker room to recognize the priority for the organization is not necessarily trying to be as competitive as possible in 2019. Clearly, they're building for the future. If they weren't, they wouldn't have agreed to trade Laramie Tunsil to the Houston Texans for 2 first-round draft picks and a second-round draft pick, also packaging Kenny Stills in that deal. So I look at it from this standpoint. I think that those Dolphins players recognize it's going to be hard for them to be competitive from a talent standpoint, week in and week out. But that still shouldn't stop you from going out there and doing your job, because from an individual standpoint, your resume as a player is the film. And as they say in the NFL, the eye in the sky don't lie. So there still should be some motivation for those players to go out there and give their best effort and try to be as competitive as possible.
Chris Canty, let's transition to New York City. This is your home turf. You got your radio show, 98.7 FM, every weekday morning from 10 a.m. to noon. Let me ask you this. When you saw, when you sit up there and you think about this, we're looking at the New York Jets. And we have a situation right now where Sam Darnold goes down, and we wish him well. He was diagnosed with mononucleosis. Obviously, that's not something to joke about. He's going to be out for several weeks. Trevor Siemian is your backup quarterback. I'm thinking about it from the standpoint that the Jets are in a world of trouble. When you look at their schedule, they've got the Patriots twice. They've got the Eagles. They've got the Cowboys. I mean, when you look at their schedule, it's entirely plausible that after 7 weeks, they could end up 1-6 or 0-7 before all is said and done. How are we to look at the Jets this season?
Well, I'll say this, Stephen A. With Sam Darnold not being available for the next several weeks, it's getting late early for the New York Jets. I know a lot of people had them as one of the dark horse wild card teams out of the AFC, but I don't envision that anybody had a formula for them to be able to get one of those wild cards without winning one of the 2 home games that they had to start the season. I mean, they lost a heartbreaker in their regular season debut against the Buffalo Bills, a game where they had a 16-point lead in the second half, only to see that squandered away, especially after they lost C.J. Mosley on the defensive side of the ball with a groin injury. You could tell that unit just was not the same. And then on the offensive side of the ball, the offensive line had not taken a snap together all preseason, and that group struggled in week 1. So I don't envision it being any easier on Monday night going up against the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are a team that have a lot of talent. We talked about some of the offseason moves that they made, including acquiring Odell Beckham Jr. So this was one of those teams that everybody had high expectations for. But in looking at how they lost their regular season opener against the Tennessee Titans, that team is going to have an angry disposition about themselves because they're out to try to prove people wrong. So this is going to be a real tough game for the Jets on Monday night. And quite frankly, Stephen A., I'm having a hard time seeing a path to victory for Gang Green.
You know, it's interesting. One of the things I'm looking at is Odell Beckham Jr. coming out and voicing his concern about Gregg Williams' defense, the defensive coordinator for the New York Jets, obviously formerly of Bountygate with New Orleans, where that got him suspended for an entire season. We've got a situation where he was the interim head coach and the defensive coordinator prior to that with the Cleveland Browns, not prior to New Orleans, but after New Orleans, but prior to this year. He was the defensive coordinator before Hugh Jackson got fired last year, and then he was the interim coach. But during a preseason game when he's defensive coordinator, that's one of the times where Odell Beckham Jr. had his season ravaged because he got hurt with a low hit or whatever. And now he speaks out about being concerned about Gregg Williams. One would argue Gregg Williams, a former psychology major in college, this is right up his alley. He's inside of Odell Beckham Jr.'s head, and it could potentially work against OBJ. What are your thoughts about that?
I thought it was a smart move by OBJ to be preemptive about it in terms of bringing some more awareness to the fact that you could have some guys on that Jets team potentially try to take some shots at him. Because let's face it, Stephen A., when you look at this Jets secondary, they're banged up. Tremaine Johnson, their number one corner, he's dealing with some hamstring injuries. And their second and third corners are suspect, to say the least. So, I mean, that secondary is going to have a hard time slowing down the skill position players for the Browns in the passing game. And then you couple that with the fact that the Jets don't have any premier edge rushers, guys that can consistently beat one-on-ones to get to the quarterback. I think it's going to be hard for that Jets defense to slow down that Browns passing attack just based on talent alone. So you're thinking that the Gregg Williams-led New York Jets defense is going to have to do something outside of the ordinary in order to try to keep this game close. And so I think this is OBJ just trying to be proactive, just trying to draw attention from the officials to the fact that there might be some guys that try to take some shots on him and the rest of the skill position players for the Browns offense.
Chris Canty, NFL analyst extraordinaire, radio host as well, right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, Humpty and Canty awarded Outstanding Radio Show by the New York State Broadcasters Association just a few months ago, so congratulations on that. Let me get to your neck of the woods. This is going to make you uncomfortable. By the way, the show is on from 10 to 1. I said 10 to noon a few minutes ago. I apologize. I said 10 to 1 several times, but I just got new because I was thinking about my lunch break, Chris Canty. You have to forgive me.
Come on, Stephen A., you know we the warm-up for you, man. We just getting the audience ready for you to go, man.
I was thinking about my lunch hour, man. My bad. Listen, let me get to the New York Giants for a second here because they just looked pathetic. I mean, you got Saquon Barkley, of course, but they literally look like they've got nothing else but Daniel Jones. And I think that it was a good sign if you're a Daniel Jones fan or if you are somebody that's pushing for the exit of Eli Manning that we saw Daniel Jones in the last 2 minutes of last week's game against the Dallas Cowboys. Some people would believe it's a bad sign and indicative of things to come. Where do you stand with all of that as it pertains to the New York Giants, and how bad do you expect them to be this season?
Well, here's the thing, Stephen A. We haven't seen a lot from Daniel Jones. I mean, there's only so much that you can put in reports that are made in the preseason, and there's only so much stock you can put in performances in preseason games. But that being said, there's nothing that we've seen from a physical standpoint or from a mental toughness standpoint that would suggest that Daniel Jones can't play in the National Football League. There's nothing that would say that he wouldn't be a capable successor to Eli Manning. All of the criticism that came from the Giants drafting him with the 6th overall pick, I mean, the kid's handled it in stride, and he's been pure class. And so I don't look at it from a standpoint that the Giants, are somehow, some way, going to be in trouble if and when they have to hand the ball off from Eli Manning to Daniel Jones this season. I think Daniel Jones is the reason why the Giants would be interesting this season. When you draft a quarterback in the top 10, let's face it, you're a team that's rebuilding. And so to me, the Giants should do everything that they can to support the decision that they made earlier in April, which is to draft a successor for Eli Manning. This season isn't about the New York Giants trying to be competitive and getting to the postseason. This season is about making sure that you do everything you can as an organization to support the development of Daniel Jones. And in my opinion, that includes getting him some experience in regular season games, because the best way to improve as a football player is to play football in meaningful games. So to me, I just think that it's not if but when we see the torch pass from Eli Manning this season to Daniel Jones.
Chris Canty, let's stay in the NFC East. Who's the best team in the division? The Cowboys or the Eagles?
You know what, Stephen A., I got to go with the Cowboys. The last 10 games in the NFC East, they're 9-1, and they swept the Eagles last year. So although I think the Eagles have the better roster top to bottom, I do believe that styles make fights, and the Dallas Cowboys style, their overall philosophy and how they want to win games, is just a tough matchup for the Eagles. It really is. And so when you see the emergence of Dak Prescott as a passer, I think that's the part of it that actually takes you from just being a playoff team to a Super Bowl contender. That's the difference. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott is the best player on that team. He's the engine for that offense. But if you have Dak Prescott continuing to build on the performance that he had in Week 1 against the New York Giants, I mean, the rest of the league needs to look out, and that includes the Philadelphia Eagles, because we know, even though Philly's a really, really good team, the one place that they can get got is their cornerbacks in their secondary, Avonte Maddox and Ron Darby and Sidney Jones. Those guys, they still got a lot to prove, and they showed that in the first half of their opener against the Washington Redskins. So for me, right now, the way the Dallas Cowboys look, if Dak can continue to build on what he's done, I mean, you better watch out, because the Cowboys team would be for real.
Do you believe that the Dallas Cowboys are making a mistake by having not paid Dak Prescott yet, considering the fact that you took care of Ezekiel Elliott, La'el Collins, Jalen Smith?
Well, I'll say this, Stephen A., with each passing week, the price is going up. Because, I mean, Dak Prescott already wanted to get paid more than Carson Wentz, who got paid $32 million plus on an extension per year by Howie Roseman and the Eagles early this offseason. And then a couple of weeks ago, we saw that the Rams extended Jared Goff and gave him the highest guaranteed money total out of any quarterback in NFL history. So with that being said, those two quarterbacks that are a part of Dak's draft class, you got to think that Dak Prescott is going to want more money than those guys, because guess what? The next guy to get paid, usually the one that gets the more money. So I look at this situation with each passing week, the price tag for Dak Prescott continues to go up. The Cowboys need to go ahead and get that deal done.
You have the Cowboys as the best team in the NFC East. Who do you have as the best team in the NFC?
Well, Stephen, it's hard to make an argument against the New Orleans Saints, especially coming after that Monday night performance that they had where Drew Brees executed the 2-minute drill to perfection. But I'm still going to do it. To me, the team that has the potential to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, it's the Green Bay Packers. Now, I know their offense didn't look great on Thursday night in the opener of the NFL season.
They got a new coach in Matt LaFleur. I mean, am I supposed to believe in him?
They got a new coach with Matt LaFleur. It was Aaron Rodgers' first time operating that offense against a defense in a different color jersey. But guess what did show up on that Thursday night?
What?
That Green Bay Packers defense. That Green Bay Packers defense showed up.
But it was hold on, Chris. But they were playing against Mitchell Trubisky, man. They don't have any real weapons in Chicago. I mean, listen, this is the guy. You know what the biggest thing about Mitchell Trubisky is? They passed up on Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson to get him. That's it. That's it, Chris.
Stephen A., I hear what you're saying, but you're still talking about a top 10 scoring offense in the NFL a year ago and a team that won their division and hosted the home playoff game. So, I mean, listen, you have to respect the Chicago Bears. You just do. But here's what I will say. If that defense from Green Bay, which they've been building slowly but surely the last several off seasons, both through free agency and the draft, if those guys can continue to show up, if those guys can give that offense of the Packers time to catch up and understand what Matt LaFleur wants to do from a philosophy standpoint, then you better look out for these Green Bay Packers. And listen, they got a great test this weekend with the Minnesota Vikings. We know that defense is legit.
Yeah.
So it'll be great to see how they look after having an opportunity to have a regular season game with that first unit in place. But listen, Aaron Rodgers is a bad man. I know you say it
He's
all
a
the
bad
time.
man.
I have confidence that offense will figure it out. But the fact that defense looked as good as it did, I think you have to feel good about the Green Bay Packers this year.
All right, I need quick answers to these questions before we get on out of here because I only got a couple of minutes left. What's up with Cam Newton, man? I never thought he was an accurate passer, even though I think that he's an elite player when healthy. What's his issues? He didn't look good last night.
No, he didn't look good last night, and the offensive line didn't do him any favors, especially Darrell Williams and Taylor Mouton. Here's the thing, Stephen A. We talked about his throwing motion and how he's changed it. He wants more of an over-the-top delivery. But a little bit of our concern came is when he gets into an actual game, will he revert back to the Cam Newton that we've seen in the past? And so far this season, the answer has been yes. Now, it's a real shame that the Carolina Panthers didn't have a better sequence in the low red zone at the end of that game last night against the Bucs. But, I mean, it's a situation where their defense played well enough to keep them in the game. But at some point, Ron and Rivera and Norv Turner, as play callers, got to realize we got a 6'5", 250-pound quarterback. If it's fourth and less than a yard, we should maybe think about trying to use the quarterback sneak. I know they don't want to get him hurt, but if you're going to have him run on a design run in the third quarter, the run where he ended up fumbling, I think it's safe to say that you should probably consider using him as a runner when the game is on the line in that situation. But, yeah, the Carolina Panthers are in big trouble. To get out to an 0-2 start, we know that teams that start the season 0-2 have an 11% chance of making the playoffs. Carolina Panthers got big problems, and I don't see how they get this thing fixed because Cam Newton didn't look right, and that offensive line looked awful.
All right, I just need a winner in each of these games I'm going to ask you to pick. Seattle, Pittsburgh.
I like Seattle, Stephen A. I don't believe in the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. I like Seattle on the road. That Steelers pass defense looked awful. They couldn't get any pressure on Tom Brady, and the secondary couldn't match up in man-to-man coverage. Right. I think that Seattle does hit some big plays in the passing game against your Pittsburgh Steelers.
New Orleans at L.A.
I like New Orleans on the road. I think they're going to try to exact some revenge. They're going to use that NFC Championship loss as a little bit of a motivating factor, but I just believe that New Orleans is the better team this year.
Philadelphia at Atlanta.
I like Philadelphia. I mean, Stephen A., at some point you are where you are. You saw the last three games that these two teams have played. The Eagles have beaten them, and not just on the scoreboard, but I think physically beaten up the Atlanta Falcons. I don't think the Atlanta Falcons are who they think they are. They want to be a tough, rugged bunch under Dan Quinn, but they're not that when they see that Philadelphia Eagles green. I like the Eagles on the road.
Chris Canty, co-host, Humpty and Canty, every weekday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., 98.7 FM, ESPN Radio, New York City, plus doing an outstanding job. Fox Sports, First Things First with my brother Chris Carter, the one and only Chris Canty right here, rising star in this business. Appreciate you, my brother. Thank you so much. See you down the road.
I appreciate it, Stephen A.
All right, the one and only Chris Canty right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News, 888-SAY-ESPN. That is the number to call up. That's 888-729-3776. You are listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Back with your calls and more in a minute. By the way, go to the Home Depot to add personality and style to your room with a. Then they got New England on the road in Foxborough with no offense. And New England might have Antonio Brown in their roster. Oh, by the way, after that, it's a bye week. And then after that, you're on the road again, going against Philadelphia Eagles. Oh, when you come back home on October 13th, that's against the Dallas Cowboys. And then you got New England again. So, ladies and gentlemen, before you can get to a Jacksonville with a backup quarterback, now that Nick Foles is out for at least the next 10 weeks, after suffering his shoulder injury, you got Cleveland, New England twice, Philadelphia, and Dallas. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ladies and gentlemen, it is entirely conceivable that the Jets would be 0-6, at best 1-5, after 6 weeks. Entirely conceivable before they have games against Jacksonville and Miami. Oh, by the way, both of those games are on the road. Which means that the likelihood is that the Jets will lose one of them. So we talking about a best case scenario of the Jets at 0-8 or 1-7 halfway mark. This is bad. We'll talk to our man Damian Woody, former player with the New York Jets, former player and Super Bowl champion, two-time Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots. He'll be on the show with us midway through this hour to talk to talk about these New York Jets. Does not look good. Does not look good. There is no reason on earth to be excited about the New York Jets prospects for the remainder of the season. Sam Darnold is gone. Even if they were losing games, at least we could monitor his progress. At least we could look at him and say, yo, let's see what the brother got. Now, Trevor Siemian is an NFL player. He's no scrub. He's your backup quarterback. But he's never completed 60% of his passes. He's 13-11 as a starter. He's thrown 30 touchdowns in his career with 24 interceptions. There's no reason to be high on Trevor Siemian. New York Jets in a world of trouble. And I cannot tell y'all how repeatedly disgusted I am growing when I consider the fact that it's the media capital of the world. This is the largest market. And our teams suck.
They know his foot is not such. We don't trust it. Don't even worry about the foot. The foot's got nothing to do with it.
He's not healthy.
They took the ball out of Cam Newton's hands and put it in Christian McCaffrey's hands. He got not one single yard.
Success in the league, but now it is not the first option.
If that aspect of his game isn't there, no defensive coordinator is going to be afraid of Cam.
If a situation like that comes up again, are they going to take the ball out of Cam Newton's hands again?
Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guest on the Oil Performance Line.
Mets host the Los Angeles Dodgers. Presented by Indeed. Coverage begins at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. This player resume is brought to you by Indeed. Used by over 3 million businesses for hiring. Post a job today at Indeed.com/hire. You used to add the line, search for greatness, search Indeed. They didn't ask me to do that. Let's go back to the phones. Suzani or Sasani, you're live with Stephen A. How are you?
Hey, Stephen A. I just want to talk about the NCAA ruling about kids getting paid.
Go ahead.
I argue about my brother. My brother used to play college football. My wife worked at a major university in Austin, the Longhorns. And, well, it's a great idea for these kids to get paid. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was 18, 21 years old, I wouldn't know how to handle a lot of money, you know. And I know these kids come from different households, different income. But let's just theoretically say, like, NCAA comes up with the rule and says, all right, we're going to pay the players, and they're going to get an allowance. They get $2,000-3,000 a month. Do you really trust these universities paying that limit? Because I know the University of Texas at Austin makes more money than Texas State University.
But that's not what's being required here. What they're saying is that the individual player, if they're popular and they have the ability and the cachet to market themselves, that's something that they can pull off. It's allowed.
Okay.
That's what they're saying.
And I was going to say, like, but don't you think, like, I mean, is it going to motivate the kids to go to school? Are they going to hold out? Are they going to start being disgruntled? Are they going to think they're not getting paid enough?
We don't know. Nothing's perfect. Nothing's perfect. Nothing's utopia. But the real issue here is whether or not they're going to have the right to profit off of something that they can profit from in a capitalistic society the way everybody else around them is allowed to do so. Coaches being paid by shoe companies, sneaker companies rather, whatever the case may be, the NCAA and others. If all of that stuff is going on, don't they have a right to look at things from a marketable standpoint if they can pull it off?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea. I understand. I mean, any adult, I mean, when I'm 18, I'm allowed to go work and get paid. I mean, I don't want to work for free, of course. And I just think it's not going to be equal for all the players. I mean, some of the lower kids are going to look at the higher kids getting all this money. I mean, what's the motivation of going to school at that point?
Well, you can say there's motivation, but if you got a scholarship or somebody's getting a little bit more, that's a capitalistic society. That's the American way. That's my view on it. But I appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. Cooper, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Yeah, Steve. How you doing, man?
All right, you got a lot of noise. Is your window down or something?
No, I'm inside my vehicle because I'm working. But I actually wanted to commend you for being a mouthpiece for Colin Kaepernick and trying to get him back into the NFL where he belongs, where he can do things that he enjoyed doing for his whole life almost, playing football. And I don't feel that he should have been blackballed out of the NFL for something that he felt that he was doing that was right.
Well,
and I commend you for saying that, man.
Well, it's not a problem. That really wasn't my agenda with this particular subject, bringing it up today. I think the important point is that his lady, Nasa Diab, approached me yesterday, and I'd like to reiterate, her and her friends approached me in a very, very classy manner to express their points of view and what they thought me and many others were missing in terms of putting erroneous information out there. And so they wanted to make sure that there was clarification in that regard, that he hadn't been offered a job by any of those 4 teams, Miami, Seattle, Baltimore, Denver. They didn't believe he was ever going to get offered those jobs. They obviously do believe, and we all believe, he's being blackballed. And she says that he still wants to play football, that he's training every day, that he's ready right now. If he were to get a call right now, he'd be in shape, and ready to go. And so she wanted to make sure that that message was disseminated to the masses as a courtesy to her. She deserves that. She has stood by his side from day one. She has supported him from day one. Obviously, that's his lady, so she's privy to things that most of us are not privy to. And the classy manner in which she approached me to talk about it, I felt the least that I could do was recognize that, publicize that with her permission, of course, and give credit where credit is due and make sure that the information that she wanted out there, was brought out there. Now, do I have an issue with how Colin Kaepernick may have gone about executing things since kneeling? Certainly. And I've expressed that. But nevertheless, there is no doubt that he should be still playing. There is no doubt that he should be in the NFL. There is no doubt that he is being blackballed. Nobody can deny that. And so when you take all of those things into consideration, it was the least that I could do. I would love to take credit, the credit that you're giving me, my man. But the reality of the situation is I don't deserve it. She does. She does, because she has stood by her man, giving him unwavering support. And no matter what critique we could give for her in terms of her methodology in the past in regards to tweets or anything like that, she clearly loves him very, very deeply. She stands by him. And if we're really being truthful, most men, if not all of us, would love to have our woman by our side in the fashion that she has stood and continues to stand by him. So I applaud her for that. And I also made sure to extend an invitation to them. Not that they would take it. They're certainly under no obligation to do so. But I wanted to make sure that she knew that her and Colin, and if he wanted to bring Eric Reed with him, could have 2 live hours on First Take to discuss their issues uninhibited. I would welcome that opportunity. I extended that invitation to them, and whatever they do with it, they do with it. That's their business.
That's great, man. That's
all right?
Very great.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for the call, man. I appreciate it. Let's go to Chris. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Chris?
Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Much respect to you first and foremost. And how you doing today?
I'm doing all right yourself. Go ahead, man.
All right, man. I just wanted to piggyback on the Antonio Brown situation. Now, I understand what you said about how they should let him play, even though, without the investigation or what have you. But I also believe now, when you think about it, how many situations where players were involved in a raping, sexual assault, how many do they actually win? When you think about that, they have a lot to look forward to within this situation. As far as there's a lot that's going to come down on this.
I don't know.
A lot that's going to go.
I mean, we don't know yet. We're going to find out.
Well, yeah, I believe that. I believe that because, in my opinion, I mean, you got one of the top wide receivers, if not the top receiver in the league, and I just believe that he has he puts himself in these situations to where he feels like he's on top of the world. And
so, what are you saying? What exactly? I don't understand exactly what you're saying. Are you saying that Antonio Brown is at fault or that he's not at fault? What exactly are you saying?
No, I believe that you got to look at the circumstances of him being a top player and him, acting as such. What she's talking about. You have to look at that first. Mm-hmm. You have to look at, because most players, like the players that have been in situations like this, Did they win or did they lose?
Yeah, I got you. We don't know. I appreciate the call, though. I got your point. I appreciate it. Carlton, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, man.
Stephen A. Nessa Diab, however you pronounce her last name, is the person that posted on social media an equivalence between Steve Bisciotti and Ray Lewis as the characters in Django, the vile characters in Django, when Ray Lewis was attempting to help Colin Kaepernick get a job.
Stop right there, Carlton. Stop right there, Carlton. You said that on many occasions. So have I. She didn't deny that. She was just saying that he hasn't been offered a job. That's all she was saying.
He wasn't offered a job, Stephen A.
No. She was addressing me because I was making the claim that he had an opportunity to have 4 jobs. She interpreted that as me saying he was offered 4 jobs, and she wanted to state for the record that he hadn't been offered the 4 jobs. That's all she was doing, Carlton.
Well, yeah, he wasn't offered the job in Miami because he wore a Castro T-shirt. He wasn't offered the job in the Ravens because she posted on her social media account equating the owner of the team with the vilest character we've ever seen in a movie.
Carlton, I'm only stopping you because you've said that numerous times. So have I. And she's not.
It didn't happen.
No, she doesn't. That's not fair, Carlton. She's not doing that. That's not what she's doing. She's not denying her role at all. I assure you.
That's why he wasn't offered the job, Stephen A. That's why he wasn't offered the job by the Ravens. For crying out. Ray Lewis came on your competitor program the day after or a couple days after that and said, I'm out. I'm not helping this guy anymore. Right. That's what Ray Lewis said. So that's the reality of it. No matter how she wants to change it around and resurrect things, that's why Colin Kaepernick is not working. Now, onto the subject that I really called about today.
Okay.
On your competitor program there, and I watch you both. I love you both. I loved you when you used to be with Skip.
Yep.
When they hold a position, and they hold positions really strongly, they admit when they're wrong at some point afterwards. Max Kellerman has never once admitted on your program that he's wrong about anything.
Because he never believes he's wrong, even though I would contend debating against him. He's always wrong.
Yesterday, Cam Newton was an elite quarterback, elite. And last night he stinks out the joint, and Max is saying he's definitely injured, even though he hasn't been on the injury report one time so far this year. Carolina Panthers, injury report. Max Kellerman said that the Oakland Raiders stole Antonio Brown for the 3rd and the 5th. The Pittsburgh Steelers was stupid for getting rid of Antonio Brown. Then when he flames out and just blows up their entire preseason, Max Kellerman then says, it was all part of a grand plan of Antonio Brown to wind up with the Patriots. Max Kellerman just makes up stuff when he's wrong to try to somehow convince the American public he's right, from saying Nick Foles was straight garbage and would not win a playoff game when he then goes and wins the Super Bowl with the Eagles, and the following year Max pretends like he knew it all along, that Nick Foles was a phenomenal quarterback in the NFL. To Tom Brady falling off a cliff in 3 years, in a year, and 3 years later he doesn't admit that he's wrong about that. I hate to say this because I never want to, attack someone. He is killing your show there, Stephen A. I cannot stand watching that guy. I only watch for you. Only watch for you.
Well, I appreciate it, but I got news for you. There's no evidence of that because we are number one. And as far as I'm concerned, as long as I'm on it, we going to stay that way because I ain't about losing. That's just me. That's just my confidence level. If it happens otherwise, it happens otherwise. But I'm going to always be there, Carlton. You know I love you and appreciate you for watching me, my man. You know that.
What?
Can you hear me, Carlton?
Yeah, hi. I missed the last thing.
No. I said, I love and appreciate you for watching me, man, because I'm going to stay number one.
I will, Stephen A., but it's getting harder and harder. You need to get some humility in that toolbox that you're paired up with.
Well, I got enough humility for the both of us. How about that? I appreciate it, though, Carlton. I got to get on out of here, man. Thank you so much. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Back to close out the show in a minute with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, go to the Home Depot to add personality and style to your room with a wide selection of on-trend tile and all in one place. The Home Depot makes replacing your carpet easy with more styles and colors to choose from. And right now, free installation on any purchase of $40.
Once the league does that and collects any type of pertinent information as it relates to this case, then you can go about, if you want to go about putting Antonio Brown on the commissioner's exemptions list, by all means. But to do it right now, right out of the box, I think it sets a terrible precedent.
Do you have any issue at all if the National Football League decided to place Antonio Brown on the commissioner's exempt list in the immediate aftermath of talking with Brittany Taylor?
I don't have a problem with that, because I think having an interview with Mrs. Taylor, I think a lot of it is fact-finding and finding out if this is truly credible, okay? And I think once you make that move, make the move to interview her, then I think, for me, I wouldn't have a problem with it saying the league basically saying, you know what, we're going to put you over here. Let's continue to collect the evidence and talk to all parties involved, and then from there, then we'll get further along and decide which way we want to go as far as potential punishment or whatever the case may be. But I just feel like, Stephen A., if you go down the road of putting Antonio Brown on a commissioner's list right off the bat without talking to anyone, I just think that it's a real slippery slope.
I completely agree with you there. As much as I absolutely respect and adore Christine Brennan, I disagree with her with that as well. I believe that if you have to talk to somebody and gather evidence. You can't just put the guy on a commissioner's list because of an allegation. I know it's popular for a lot of people to pounce on him because of his idiocy and buffoonish behavior while he was an Oakland Raider, but that has absolutely positively nothing to do with this accusation of criminal behavior, because if he raped her, obviously that's a highly egregious crime, and his behind should be in jail. He shouldn't be paying some civil fine. He should be in jail if he raped her, okay? But if you're going to make the accusation, if that's all you have to do to get a guy off the football field, then obviously that is a slippery slope, and I don't blame you for feeling that way after all. If you missed any of today's show, go check it out on demand. The Stephen A. Smith Podcast, brought to you by the Capital One Quick Silver Card. Earning unlimited 1.5% cash back on every purchase everywhere. Hey, what's in your wallet? Talk to y'all Monday.